man, this video is difficult to do. This is Soapbox After Dark. I am your host, Jamarl Thomas. I am your unfortunate host, Jamarl Thomas. This is going to be a flashback. And I'm doing this flashback because I want people, when you look at this kind of vindication that some of us feel that we're in the foxhole together, pushing back on this narrative of the Trump and Russia stuff, and we were being called conspiracy theorists because we didn't necessarily toe the line that the mainstream media was towing, that they kept Glenn Greenwald off of MSNBC and shows like that because they didn't want a competing narrative in order to adversely affect their profits, which were dramatically going up with this idea of Trump and Russia and this Tom Clancy foreign agent business. It is difficult for me to do this story because Keith Olbermann was one of my favorite people. When I say that my political awakening to some degree happened binge watching Keith Olbermann episodes, that is not necessarily an understatement. I mean, granted, there are more people into that. You get Tom Hartman, hell, you get Sam Cedar, Maddow, you get all of these people that were kind of gateways. But they were there, especially during the Bush administration, because that was my, I can say, formative years of paying attention to politics, but not necessarily paying attention to politics. I was around during that time, and these guys were around also. And the special comments that Keith Olbermann used to have against George Bush were incandescent. They're absolutely epic. Like, binge watchable. Because he was right. Bush was that bad. And so it's a painful day when I look at this Keith Olbermann that essentially popped back out of the blue when Trump took office, and apparently somebody gave him studio equipment that he was able to fit into his basement or to his bathroom, and he's been out doing videos going after Donald Trump. The problem with this is some of the stuff is hysterical. And I don't mean hysterical as in funny, I mean hysterical as in absolutely unhinged conspiracy theory that by any measure is journalistic malpractice. I don't think he cares. It gets across this thing that this is partisan politics, and it looks gross on him. Same thing with Rachel Maddow. It looks gross on her. These people who used to be like, oh God, these people are awesome, and then you're like, oh God, I don't like this view. It's like Sam on True Blood, where everybody thinks he's this cute, cuddly dog, and then in one of the episodes he kills a guy, throws his body in a swamp. You're like, oh my God. It adds more information to the character itself. I'm saying the same thing is true with the personalities who we used to watch during the Bush administration. In this case, Olbermann shames himself. This has to be the worst journalistic day of his life. Take a look at this. He's absolutely enraged, hysterical, and unhinged. Kills me to do this.
A threat, and the military apparatus of this country is about to be handed over to by a thread, and the military apparatus of this country is about to be handed over to scum, who are beholden to scum, Russian scum. As things are today, January 20th will not be an inauguration, but rather the end of the United States as an independent country. It will not be a peaceful change of power. It will be a usurpation, and the usurper has no validity, no credibility, and no authority under the Constitution. This is a reality that will become the only reality until this country rids itself of Donald John Trump. He is not a president. He is a puppet put in power by Vladimir Putin. And those who ignore these elemental existential facts, Democrats or Republicans, are traitors to this country.
Listen to this. This is insane. We know today that everything Keith Olbermann is saying here is wrong. All of this information that they put into Mueller, meaning all of this credibility that they infused into Mueller because they thought Mueller was going to bring it home for him. Mueller came back saying, you know, there's nothing to see here, folks. There was no there. There was nothing here. Mueller was very clear and distinct about that. There was nothing here. What Keith Olbermann is saying here, that Donald Trump is a puppet of Vladimir Putin was found to be objectively false. There was no way for Keith Olbermann to know that, as Keith Olbermann is passionately and emphatically screaming out what amounts to a conspiracy theory. This is painful to watch. This is painful to watch. Keith Olbermann was not like this prior to this. Under George Bush, he was a goddamn warrior. In this case, he looks like a drunk uncle. For all intents and purposes, if there was a video of a drunk uncle stumbling after a night of prostitution, cocaine, and alcohol, that would have been a better video as opposed to Keith Olbermann appearing in this particular video. This is sad and disturbing. And nevertheless, one Mr. Keith Olbermann. Let's take a look at it again. It's almost like an Alex Jones, but like a low down Alex Jones. Let's hear him again.
Russian scum! As things are today, January 20th will not be an inauguration, but rather the end of the United States as an independent country. It will not be a peaceful change of power. It will be a usurpation. And
you know when I lost respect for Keith Olbermann? Real talk. During the 2016 election, a little bit after the 2016 election, Donna Brazile is hawking her book. And when she's going out selling her book, she comes out and she says, essentially, she writes that passage about Bernie Sanders being cheated. Even to the degree that they want to acknowledge that he was cheated, this acknowledging that Hillary Clinton, for the most part, had control over the media apparatus in an event that she herself was also running in. But they say that this was absolutely a fair process. That's utterly insane. Not to mention they're telling you entirely that this is a fair process when the fix was already in. Donna Brazile exposes this. Keith Olbermann puts out a tweet. I'll never forget it. And the tweet wasn't, oh my God, they did cheat Bernie Sanders. Maybe he was naive. Oh my God, I can't believe the Democratic Party did this. How dare they? They cheated a guy. You can't do that. This is a democratic system. We need to defend democracy. We need to be the resistance. That wasn't his tweet at all. His tweet was, Donna Brazile has just lost her career. Donna Brazile has just lost her career. Any notion or any career she thought she was going to have within the Democratic Party has just went up in smoke. Well, that's an odd tweet, right? I mean, if you didn't believe that Bernie Sanders was cheated, meaning if you were in this naivete of the whole thing of the cheating thing, then you might come away from this kind of shocked by this. But he wasn't shocked by this at all. His only issue was she's just lost her career. Her career has went up in smoke. Partisan. Politics. Truth. Ethics matter less than the party itself. That's when I lost respect for Keith Olbermann. Not to mention him shaming himself on The View, talking about he was sorry for going after George Bush. Keith Olbermann, hysterical, ramblings of a madman, screaming of a conspiracy theory that he could not possibly know to be true, and yet, nevertheless, screams about it with vigor and force as if it's an actual fact. Almost as if the very strength that he puts into it, if I squeeze my ass cheeks enough, I can make this come to be. Alas, not so much. Not so much. Let's hear it one more time.
The usurper has no validity, no credibility, and no authority under the Constitution. This is a reality that will become the only reality until this country rids itself of Donald John Trump. He is not a president. He is a puppet put in power by Vladimir Putin. And those who ignore these elemental existential facts, Democrats or Republicans, are traitors to this country.
We're not traitors, sir. You're incompetent. Or at the very least, you're compromised in regards to your perspective of this president. Is Donald Trump corrupt? Fuck yes. I have no illusions about Donald Trump being corrupt, but there is a very different case here. The very specific thing that you're making, saying that Russia got Trump elected and that he is a puppet of Vladimir Putin. That is dramatically dangerous talk that you're screaming at the height of your lungs. You have nothing to back that up at all. It's utterly disturbing. And Olbermann debasing himself in this way is just utterly journalistic malpractice. if he cared about such a thing at all, if he even considered himself a journalist. Sad day. This was a very sad day. I end this here. Thanks all.